So this lecture is more about the exception handling. Say an example, I have a number and I want to find the result like k is equal to 3 divided by I minus c. Okay. This is what I want to do. Now if you see k is, we are dividing k by 1 minus 1, it means 0. So in computer world, if you, or in the normal mathematics, we know that when we divide a number by 0, it results infinite. And that is an error or exception in case of when we are developing the solution. So C# cannot handle that. So it should throw the error. So if I say here console.writeLine result equals to k. So let us see what will happen. Let me first run it. So it is saying that unhandled exception, divide by 0 exception, attempted to divide by 0 at this application, and this is the location, line number 13. So if I debug it, so let me put a breakpoint here. Okay, now I debug it. I'm pressing F10. So here it is dividing and it throws the error because you are dividing it by the 0. So application is not able to handle it and it gives the error attempted to divide by 0. So when the error happened at the runtime, we call it exception. So there are there are 3 types of errors exist in programming world. One is the compilation error, one is the logical error, and third is the runtime error. So runtime error, we call it exception. So compilation error is something if you divide it directly by 0, by 3 divided by 0. Okay, so compiler itself does not allow to run the program, and here it says division by constant 0. So you are putting some constant value 0 and divide. So compiler will not allow to run the program. So this is the compile time error, and logical error is that it is compiler will allow to run the program, but there is some problem in running the code in such a way that you want to get the desired result. Say an example, you want to find the sum of two numbers, but you are using multiply operator. So in that case, you will always get sum equals to multiplication of two numbers. But actually you want the plus, you have to use the plus instead of multiply operator. So in that case, there is a error in your logic. So that type of error we call the logical error. And third is the runtime error. Runtime error, the example which we have discussed, this 3. So these are the errors which is, which is an error by application if you run the code. So in this case, if you want to divide 3 by 0, so 0 divide any number by 0 is not allowed. So these type of errors are called the runtime error. Now to compile time error, you can handle, because compiler will not allow you to do that. Logical error, it's means program will not stop running. It will give you the wrong result. But runtime error, we must handle it. So to handle the runtime errors, what we will do, because when we test our application, at that time we should put the possible values of the input. Say an example here, I uh, I is a value which is coming through some text box, and j is also coming from text box. So in all the possible values, my application should not stop running. So if you notice that uh, the last statement, which is console.writeLine, I'm printing k, is not printing. So it throws the error, and that's it. It came out of the program. So to handle such kind of situations in C#, we are having a exception handling, which is nothing but try catch block. So if I put the statement in try catch, in try we put those statements which are where there is a possibility of an error at runtime. So I'm saying this is my try and this is my catch. So there is an exception class, inbuilt class exception, which is present in system namespace, which will tell you about what was the exception occurred. So how do it know? So I will say console.writeLine ex.message. So ex.message tells that what was the error message. So let me run it. So it is saying, see, if you notice that before putting try catch, it was giving some runtime error that at this line, this was the error, but now it is some meaningful error. So it is saying attempted to divide by 0. So this comes because of ex.message. So ex.message tells the actual error which is generated by the system. Now in this case, my program is not stopped. So say an example, I want to print something here, console.writeLine and so program is over. Okay. If I say that and run it, so you have seen that after catch, the next statement is executed. So program is not stopped, but and the error is also handled by the application. Okay, and Now what happens that, okay, so if I want, I'm just putting the line numbers. So I will go to the tools options, and here I will select C#, general, and line number. So now I have line number 1, 2, 3, 4. There is one more way. Message is only telling me that what was the error message, but I want to see that where exactly the error occurred at runtime. Because here it tells that attempt to divide by 0, but that is not I want. I want that there could be, because here I have few lines of code, but when it goes for the real-time application, at that time the number of lines will be more. And to find out where exactly the error occurs, so we have dot stack trace. So this property of the exception tells me that actual story of the runtime error. So let me run it. Now it is saying at basic.program.main. So basic.program.main. Program is the class, main is the method, and it is basic CA is my namespace. Of your line number 15 it is saying. So where is line number 15? So you can see it occurred equal k equals to, it means the exception occurred at this point. So with this I can find out, okay, there is a problem at this particular line number. So whatever the necessary steps I need to follow, I will follow accordingly. So stack trace is the property which tells everything about the exception. Sometimes what happens that this catch exception, it is common for all the exception at runtime. Means any exception which occurred at the runtime, the control goes to the catch block. In certain scenarios, you don't want that. You want that if this error occurred, then I need to perform this. If that error occurred, then I want to perform this. So for example, if a try is one, but it can have multiple catches. So if I say catch, so catch, and if I want to put divide by 0 exception. So this is another exception. So this exception is the base class. So if I go to this exception, right click and go to definition. Okay, this is an exception which is having is getting inherited from serializable and a class, and it has method like message, source, or stack trace. Now if I go back to my divide by 0 exception, so if I go to its definition, so you can see this is a class which is getting inherited from the arithmetic exception. So if I go to arithmetic exception, So it is getting inherited from the system exception. So if I go to system exception, ultimately it is getting inherited from the exception class. So what I am trying to say, whatever the type of exception we are getting, ultimately it is getting inherited from the exception. So exception is the top parent for these all type of runtime errors. Now what I want to do here, I'm saying if it is divide by 0 exception, then don't go here, go to this part only. So I'm saying ex1. Okay, and I want to print my own message, or you can put ex1 dot message or stack trace, but if you want to print your own custom message, you can pass that as well. So I'm saying sorry program throws a runtime exception divide by 0. Okay. So now I have two catch block. One catch block for the divide by 0 only, means if there is a divide by 0 error occur, and second catch block is for the other errors apart from the divide by 0. So let me run it. So now you can see this catch block, only one catch block can execute with one try. It's not possible that multiple catch block will execute. So here now you can see it execute this part of the code. Sorry, program throws a runtime error, runtime exception divide by 0. And after that catch block, after catch block, there is a console.writeLine statement which says that program is over. Same way, if you want to have other exception, you can put that like I believe argument out of range exception. And I'm saying console.writeLine index is out of range. Okay. And if you want to print the message as well, so you can print that as well, ex.message. And say an example, I have an array. So which is having 3 elements. Okay. And I'm going to print an element. Let me put under the try so that this error should be handled. And I want to print an element A10 which does not exist. Right? So let's run it. Okay, so I think this is not the index out of range. Sorry, that was not for the. So now you can see index is out of range was outside the, so this is the my error which I was printing, index is out of range plus ex dot message, index is out of range, then real error message it is throwing. And also if you want to print the stack trace of this, so with some space, let's say ex dot stack trace dot toString. Now it will tell that this is my error, and after space at basic this at line number 17. So if you see, this is the 17th line where the error occurred. Okay, there is one more twist here, that if you put this catch block on the top, you have multiple catch. If you put catch block on the top, then compiler will start throwing the errors for the other catch block, because when at the runtime the catch block is checked, it is checked in the sequence order. It will check first catch block whether the exception related to that, whether it is a second, whether it is a third, whether it is a fourth. But if you put the catch exception on the top, which is for the exception class only, then it will say okay, this will not be in the scope. So that is why the catch exception should be in the end all the time, so that this particular part of code or catch block is executed if the above catch block is not executed at the runtime. So that is also one thing we need to keep in our mind. Now, so this is try with the multiple catch block. So now this try catch block is also come with one more keyword which is called finally. So finally is the block where we say that this part will always execute apart from that there is an error occurred or no error occurred. If there is an error in the program, then I'm saying that catch block will execute. If there is no error, then catch block will not execute. So catch block executes or not, ultimately I want to put a finally statement. So here you can see I put it into the finally. There is only one finally block for one try catch or try catch block. So say an example, in the try you are opening a file is opened. Okay, now you are writing into a file. At that time there is a network error happened or the drive error happened where you are not able to write it in the file. Then immediately it will come to the catch block. Okay, and finally you are saying whether I am able to write it into the file or not write it into the file, I have to close the file. Then that code I will write it into the finally block. So if I run this, in this case I am just writing program is over. So there is an error occurred. After error occurred, it is writing program is over, which is in our finally block. So this complete exception handling set come with the try, catch and finally block. Okay. Okay, so finally is optional that we can write or not write. Program will not throw any type of error. But if you have a try, you must have the catch. Now, next situation is that you know that there could be an error occur. Say an example here. This is I am deliberately throwing the error. But if I say, let me comment this or let me remove this. I'm saying if I equal to j, because I am going to perform a divide operation. Now I may have in my test case by saying that if I is equal to j, it means it is going to divide by 0, which by which my program should not continue, because if it divide by 0, it throws the runtime error. So I am saying that if I equal to 0, then throw new exception sorry or the dividing is not possible. Something I just want to print my. Now here what I'm doing, I'm throwing the exception by my code. I'm saying if I equal to 0, then do this. And here I'm just printing console.writeLine ex dot. So when you write your own message, then message is overwritten by this custom message. So I'm saying dividing is not possible. So let us run and see. So it is saying dividing is not possible, program is over. So if I see here, I equal to j, I is equal to 1, j is equal to 1, it is throwing. So here it will directly come to the catch block. So directly it come over here, and if you closely look, what I am doing, new exception, since I am just initializing the constructor. So in the constructor of exception class, it is written like that. If I pass an argument of string, it will overwrite the value of the message variable. So that is what it did. Dividing is not possible. That value goes into the message variable, and and why it is not going here, divide by 0 exception, because I am not throwing this exception. I am throwing exception, and exception is here in this catch block. So what it did, it come over here and it is just printing ex dot message. So we can throw the error also. So the situation I have shown you, that before dividing by 0 I need to compare, and then I will, if I equal to j, then I should not continue my program. I want to break my program and it should go to the catch block. So that you can do in this way. Okay. So as we know that all the exceptions are like divide by 0 or index out of range, these are having the ultimate base classes exception. So if you want to divide by 0 exception, if you want, then you can write divide by 0 exception, and this is, so now in this case it will come over here. So instead of this, if I want to print the, or let's print this so that we can differentiate. So here now you can see divide by 0. So program throws that error is coming up. So in this case, it did not go to the exception because now I'm explicitly throwing the exception divide by 0 exception. Okay. Now, if you want to print the message, you can print the message as well. So if I say ex1 dot message, so in this case also it will be overwritten by the dividing is not possible. But in this case it goes to this exception.